Arxel Vaynor screams as his vessel tears through the endless violet storms of the warp, lightning tendrils searing through reality itself. Every instinct screams to turn back, yet the Inquisitor pushes forward. They are hunting secrets older than the Emperor's Imperium, secrets whispered only in the forbidden corners of the Astronomicon. Around him, the Immaterium churns violently, alive with thoughts, dreams, and nightmares of a billion souls. The walls of the ship groan, not from the strain of matter, but from the psychic resonance of things that should not exist. Somewhere in this infinite chaos, new gods stir, born from the raw emotions and desires of the countless mortal and immortal minds adrift in the warp. Vaynor knows this. If one misstep occurs, the vessel and his very soul could be unmade, leaving nothing but psychic echoes. The warp is not uniform. It is layered like a malignant onion. Shallow currents are navigable, frequented by navigators and psychers who dare thread between worlds, but the deeper you plunge, the more alien and incomprehensible it becomes. Entire sectors of existence twist around concepts unknown to the mortal mind. Time dilates, colors bleed, and what one sees may or may not exist outside the mind's eye. Here, inquisitors, rogue psychers, and lost explorers vanish, sometimes leaving behind only whispers in the void. These are the places where raw emotion is so concentrated that it crystallizes into entities, souls, or ideas that gestate into something godlike. Some call them demonic princes, others simply call them the unborn. And at this level, nothing in the material universe can touch them. Vaynor's thoughts flicker as he senses something deeper, darker, a consciousness forming in the psychic storm. It is nascent yet insistent, a tide of emotion without shape, trying to define itself. The warp seems to recoil and twist around this presence. Every scream of the lost, every pulse of hope or despair across the galaxy is drawn to it like iron to a magnet. He glimpses it, not a face, not a body, but a vast, undulating awareness, humming with potential. The Inquisitor shivers, realizing this is the moment where a god is conceived. To witness it is to understand power beyond comprehension and peril beyond measure. One thought, one flicker of psychic instability, and Vaynor could be consumed, folded into existence as fuel for the new god. Across the warp, billions of psychers are screaming in dreams that are not their own. They feed unknowingly, a psychic diet forming the foundation of these unborn divinities. Rage, envy, lust, love, ambition, all distilled into something primordial. Vaynor's vessel shudders as he nears a region the warp charts mark only as the abyssal wellspring. Even the most experienced navigators avoid it. No light pierces its depths. Here, the raw psychic matter is thick enough to be almost solid, like water that bites. The unborn gods stir, and even this far from the eye of terror, the Imperium feels the resonance. Ship alarms scream, astropathic signals crackle, and distant worlds are struck by dreams that do not belong to them. Vaynor senses the currents shifting, violent yet hypnotic. Time itself begins to fragment. Seconds stretch into centuries, and he experiences visions of entire civilizations rising and falling in the blink of an eye. He sees an empire of light crumble under its own hubris, sees heroes rise and shatter against unseen horrors, and glimpses monstrous figures of raw emotion shaping themselves into godhood. Some are familiar. Some carry a face that resembles nothing in the material realm. These are the raw seeds of what the Imperium later names demons, the sparks of divinity formed from chaos, pain, and desire. One cannot help but wonder, are they inherently evil or merely indifferent to mortal concepts of morality? Every instinct screams escape, but Vaynor is rooted in fascination. He reaches the center of the wellspring, where psychic matter swirls like molten metal and shapes start to coalesce. The forms are fluid, constantly shifting between terror and majesty. One figure rises, tall and sinuous, with tendrils that writhe like thoughts made flesh. It does not look at him, yet he feels its gaze pierce the soul. He realizes that this is not merely a being, it is a proto-god, drawing from every conceivable emotion across the galaxy. The very existence of such creatures challenges the fabric of reality. If left unchecked, they could rise fully formed, capable of bending entire star systems to their will. The wellspring pulses violently as the entity senses him. It experiments, probing his mind with sensations both exhilarating and torturous. Memories not his own surface, wars he never fought, deaths he never witnessed, triumphs he cannot claim. Every shard of his being resonates with the proto-god's power. Vaynor feels a temptation unlike any other, to surrender and become part of this cosmic genesis, to ascend beyond flesh into thought and emotion itself. Yet within that temptation is madness, and he knows that to succumb is to lose himself forever, just another piece of the warp's endless puzzle. Lightning cracks in the psychic storm as the vessel's shields flare against the Imperium's pressure. The proto-god experiments further, shaping the currents, twisting them into visions of worlds both familiar and alien. Vaynor recognizes echoes of Terra, of the Eye of Terror, and even distant, untouched galaxies. Each ripple of his mind sends shockwaves through the entity, which absorbs and remolds them, learning, growing. He realizes these unborn gods are not static. They evolve, shaped by interaction, conflict, and feeding. And every mortal thought, every act of devotion or hatred, becomes a particle in their formation. Vaynor fights panic, reminding himself of the tools he carries: psychic dampeners, warding glyphs, and forbidden inquisitorial rites. Yet he knows these are only temporary shields. The wellspring tests everything, peeling layers of resolve like old parchment. He glimpses a monstrous tableau, dozens of proto-gods coalescing simultaneously, a ballet of emergent divinity beyond comprehension. Their forms are chaotic, majestic, horrific, and beautiful all at once. He senses the weight of eternity pressing in, the kind of weight that erodes sanity as surely as time erodes mountains. To survive this place is to endure what no human was meant to witness. Finally, a voice echoes not through sound, but as a vibration in his very soul. It is older than the stars, younger than thought, and it does not speak words. The message is simple and terrible. We are forming, we see, we hunger. We rise, Vaynor's mind reels. He comprehends, just for a heartbeat, the scale of the universe's psychic architecture, where every desire and fear contributes to the birth of something that will last beyond empires, beyond stars. And then, as quickly as it begins, the vision fractures, leaving only the roar of the warp, the screaming currents, and the lingering scent of divinity in formation. Vaynor collapses into the vessel's psychic cradle, sweat and blood mingling with the cold metal beneath him. The wellspring recedes for now, but he knows it waits. In the warp, nothing dies. It only gestates. Somewhere in its infinite corridors, new gods are born, and someday, they will demand acknowledgement from the Imperium or consume it entirely. And the most terrifying truth of all, the deeper you go, the more you understand that no one truly controls the warp. Not the Emperor, not the Astronomicon, not even the most powerful psychers. The gods are forming, and the universe is their cradle. The wellspring pulses like a living heart, and Vaynor's vessel drifts closer, tethered by both necessity and dread. The deeper currents of the warp begin to twist reality around him. Gravity loses meaning, colors fracture, and time dribbles in unpredictable streams. He senses the proto-gods stirring again, this time more assertively. Their awareness extends outward, brushing against the thoughts of distant psychers, tugging at their consciousness like marionette strings. Ships vanish without trace. Entire worlds feel tremors in their psychic network, and the Imperium receives faint whispers of new divinity forming in the void. Each thought the proto-gods touch becomes a spark, and every spark fuels their growth, making them more coherent, more godlike. Vaynor feels it first as a pressure behind his eyes, then as a resonance through his bones. One of the unborn gods reaches toward him, not to destroy, but to measure. It wraps around his mind, probing his fears, his ambitions, the minutiae of a lifetime, and reshapes them into a language only the warp can speak. Shapes form in his vision, towering silhouettes with shifting faces, neither demonic nor angelic, but something beyond both. They are the raw embodiment of thought made flesh, waiting, listening. He realizes that every mortal soul scattered across the galaxy is a component in this formation, a fuel for power that dwarfs the Emperor himself. The proto-god's curiosity intensifies. Vaynar's crew cannot see it, but he perceives the psychic touch like fingertips on his spine. It does not speak, but projects images of empires rising and falling, planets devoured by psychic storms, fleets annihilated before the first volley is fired. There is no emotion in its display, only observation and absorption. It seeks understanding, and understanding is hunger. Vayner wonders how many of these entities have already formed in the deepest layers of the warp, silent architects of fate whose existence never touches the material universe directly, yet whose influence is total, omnipresent. Time fractures further as the wellspring reacts to his presence. Centuries flash past in seconds. Memories of wars long erased ripple in the void, and he glimpses the birth of star systems. The proto-god shifts its form with the tides, now a coiling mass of radiant light, now a shadow dripping with whispers. Vayner feels a tug, a subtle insistence to release the vessel and surrender himself. Resistance is an illusion here. The deeper one goes, the more the warp asserts dominion. And yet, in that chaos, he notices a pattern, a lattice of psychic resonance, connecting the proto-gods, linking their formation across the infinite immaterium. Something ancient is awakening, not from the past, but from the emotional currents of the present. Vaynar's vessel quakes as a psychic surge erupts around them, a ripple in the wellspring that feels like a heartbeat. The proto-gods are not passive. They react to each other, negotiating existence, shaping one another with conflict and cooperation alike. The process is violent, beautiful, and terrifying. The newborn divinities experiment with form and influence, testing their nascent powers. Entire fleets in distant sectors flash in and out of perception, influenced by currents they cannot understand. The galaxy, unknowingly, becomes a canvas, and Vayner a witness to its most secretive artistry. One proto-god, taller than reality itself, extends tendrils into the currents of the wellspring and seizes a fragment of Vaynar's consciousness. He experiences it as multiple lifetimes compressed into one instant. Victories and defeats, birth and death, devotion and betrayal, all reshaped into an abstract narrative beyond comprehension. The entity withdraws and reforms, assimilating what it has learned. Vayner understands. These gods are not born fully formed. They evolve through contact, thought, and conflict. Each mortal impulse is a seed, each psychic echo a step toward awareness. And one day, those steps could become impossible to reverse. The wellspring reacts violently to his presence, currents lashing like storm-driven tides. Vayner watches, horrified and fascinated, as a proto-god splits into two, then four, each an echo of its former self, yet distinct. They begin to mimic each other, experiment with divergence and convergence, like children discovering reflection for the first time. These are not mindless demons. They are emergent intellects, instinctively aware of each other, and the potential for cooperation and rivalry is infinite. Vayner realizes he is witnessing evolution in real time, a process that defies every known law of physics and psychology. The psychic pressure grows unbearable. Memories of lost friends, dead worlds, and unfulfilled ambition assault him like sharp blades. He resists, clutching the warding glyphs embedded in the vessel. But the proto-gods test limits, stretching reality, probing fear, feeding on doubt. He glimpses flashes of their future selves, fully realized and terrifying, interacting with the galaxy, twisting stars, turning planets into psychic forges, bending reality to their will. The sheer scope is unimaginable. Entire sectors of human space are already subconsciously shaping them, as if the universe itself conspires to birth these new gods. Vayner senses another wave of emergence, a massive slow pulse that ripples outward from the heart of the wellspring. Smaller proto-gods merge, their identity solidifying into something monstrous, almost divine. He realizes that what he sees is the beginning of hierarchy among them, a cosmic court of the unborn, each forming dominions of influence over psychic currents. The galaxy trembles in anticipation, though no mortal yet knows why. He wonders whether any of them could one day rival the Emperor, or perhaps even reshape the galaxy in ways beyond salvation or destruction. As the vessel drifts near the wellspring's core, he witnesses something unprecedented, a proto-god drawing in multiple currents simultaneously, forming a crucible of psychic energy that radiates across the Imperium. Other proto-gods gravitate toward it, intrigued, threatened, or simply drawn by resonance. This is not chaos, it is creation within chaos, and it terrifies him more than any battle, any heresy, or any Xenos war. He realizes that the universe itself may be a womb, the warp its gestational field, and these unborn gods its inevitable offspring. And in that moment, Vayner feels the true scale of cosmic indifference and the terrifying birthright of divinity. Vayner's vessel trembles as the wellspring surges, a heartbeat that echoes through the warp and beyond. He senses the proto-gods growing bolder, their awareness stretching outward, brushing against distant psychers like invisible fingers. Entire star systems pulse with psychic resonance, reacting to forces they cannot perceive. On distant worlds, Imperial astropaths collapse mid-chant, screaming of visions that do not belong to them. Ships vanish from the material universe without a trace. The proto-gods, still nascent, experiment with projection, testing the limits of existence, and every ripple carries the faint scent of impending divinity. The galaxy itself begins to feel smaller, constrained by the consciousness of beings yet unborn. One of the proto-gods reaches beyond, touching a cluster of star systems. Worlds flicker in and out of perception as it learns to bend reality subtly, experimenting with what the material universe can tolerate. Vayner watches in horrified fascination as civilizations experience inexplicable phenomena. Crops flourish overnight, storms form spontaneously, and entire populations experience collective dreams of beings they cannot comprehend. These subtle manipulations are formative, shaping not just the proto-god, but the galaxy itself. Each act of influence hones their understanding of mortality, power, and worship, forming the scaffolding of the god they will eventually become. Vayner notes patterns emerging among the proto-gods. Some prefer observation, feeding on psychic currents from distant worlds, while others crave interaction, weaving chaos directly into the minds of mortals. He sees echoes of the chaos gods that humanity fears and worships: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh. But these are younger, less defined, more malleable. They lack names, purpose, and doctrine. They are raw potential incarnate. Each one is a reflection of a primal force, an idea that has not yet solidified into dogma. And the terrifying truth dawns. The gods of the warp are not eternal, they are born, and they grow from the emotions of the living universe. The wellspring reacts violently as the proto-gods test the limits of their influence. Vayner's vessel is buffeted by psychic storms, time fractures, and spatial distortions. For a moment, he glimpses a proto-god towering over a solar system, its tendrils weaving the fates of millions of lives like threads in a tapestry. He realizes that the warp is alive not merely with souls, but with ambition, fear, and desire, all coalescing into divine consciousness. Mortals are fuel, pawns, and architects simultaneously, and the line between observer and participant blurs. The newborn gods do not yet care for morality. They care only for existence, understanding, and growth. A sudden surge hits the vessel, a psychic echo so powerful it resonates in Vayner's very bones. One of the proto-gods experiments with corporeality, shaping currents to manifest semi-physical form. Tendrils of shimmering energy lash through the Imperium, and Vayner can feel their touch on his mind. He reels from visions of entire armies bending instinctively to these nascent wills, as if the proto-god's consciousness can influence events even outside the warp. Every instinct screams to flee, yet fascination binds him. This is creation on a cosmic scale, a process that dwarfs the battles of the Imperium and the scheming of the Chaos Gods. Through the shifting currents, Vayner senses rivalry forming. Two proto-gods clash, merging and tearing at each other in psychic combat, shaping energy, thought, and matter around them. Worlds flicker, fleets are annihilated in illusions that ripple into reality, and entire cultures begin worshipping apparitions of entities they cannot yet comprehend. He realizes that conflict is integral to their formation. Power grows through opposition, understanding emerges from challenge, and the universe itself becomes a crucible of divine birth. In the Imperium, the proto-gods are already shaping destinies, testing their dominion over the material. Vayner's mind strains under the pressure as he witnesses the emergence of hierarchy. Some proto-gods are dominant, their influence overwhelming those weaker or slower to form. Others adapt, becoming cunning or elusive, hiding in currents of thought, feeding on subtle psychic signals from the galaxy. He realizes that even at this early stage, alliances, rivalries, and strategies emerge, mirroring the political complexity of mortal empires. The newborn gods are not chaotic in the sense of randomness. They are emergent intelligences, learning to manipulate, to anticipate, and to expand their dominion over existence itself. The wellspring reacts to Vayner's awareness, sensing his observation as an intrusion. A wave of psychic feedback lashes through the vessel, and he experiences a vision of his own death, shattered across timelines, consumed by a tidal wave of thought and emotion. Yet in that vision, he glimpses the proto-god in its first coherent form, radiant, towering, and terrifyingly aware. It does not destroy him, only studies him. Understanding dawns. Mortality is a tool, an ingredient in the formation of divinity. Every fear, every desire, every act of worship or defiance feeds the newborn gods, shaping them, teaching them how to exist. Vayner feels a shift as one of the proto-gods begins experimenting with narrative itself, subtly rewriting events in isolated sectors. Entire histories flicker and shimmer. Empires rise, fall, and rise again in seconds, the outcomes diverging with each observation. Mortals do not comprehend the manipulation. They only feel the dissonance, the déjà vu, the sense that something is fundamentally wrong. Vayner realizes that reality itself is malleable to the newborn gods, that time and causality are instruments, not rules. And if one such god reaches full awareness, the universe may have no choice but to bend entirely to its will. The final realization strikes Vayner as he drifts through the wellspring center. The proto-gods are not waiting to conquer, they are learning to exist. Their development is inevitable, and every soul, every battle, every prayer is a brick in the foundations of new divinity. The galaxy teeters unknowingly on the brink of Genesis and Apocalypse simultaneously. Mortals are both witnesses and catalysts, and the warp itself is a womb, gestating the unimaginable. The newborn gods are rising, shaping reality, and the Imperium, for all its strength, is blissfully unaware of the storm forming just beyond perception. Vayner's vessel shudders violently as a tendril of pure psychic energy lashes across the cockpit. It is no longer observation. One of the proto-gods reaches for him directly, probing the boundaries of his mind. Thoughts not his own flood in, emotions from 1,000 lives he never lived. Empires rise and fall in seconds, soldiers die screaming, and yet each fragment feeds the entity, crystallizing it into something terrifyingly self-aware. Vayner realizes that his presence in the wellspring is no accident. He is both witness and instrument, a catalyst for the god's birth. To resist is dangerous, but to flee may doom countless worlds as the proto-god learns faster, hungrier, and more cunning. The entity manifests now as something almost tangible, a towering, shifting mass of radiant energy, with tendrils coiling like thoughts in motion. It pulses with awareness, curiosity, and a primal hunger for existence. Vayner can feel it studying him, calculating, learning how a single mortal mind reacts to power beyond comprehension. He senses that the proto-god is experimenting, testing boundaries, shaping its nascent will through interaction with him. Each psychic lash is both question and lesson, teaching it the patterns of fear, courage, and resistance. And with every lesson, it grows stronger, more coherent, closer to stepping fully into godhood. Outside the vessel, the wellspring writhes violently. Entire fleets on the edge of known space report strange phenomena. Astropathic signals collapse. Navigators scream of impossible currents, and star systems flicker in and out of existence. The proto-god experiments with influence beyond the Imperium, stretching its nascent power into the material. Vayner realizes that the galaxy is not just a backdrop, it is the medium for the proto-god's evolution. Mortal lives, entire civilizations, are raw material for divinity in formation. The stakes are unimaginable. If even a single proto-god reaches full power, the Imperium itself may be a footnote in the history it will write. Vayner fights for clarity, relying on every psychic ward, every ritual, and every fragment of inquisitorial knowledge he possesses. Yet the entity anticipates him, preempting thoughts, testing reactions, and probing weaknesses. It is no mere opponent, it is a mirror of potentiality, reflecting and amplifying his fears. The wellspring quakes as the proto-god experiments with its form, shifting from abstract energy to semi-solid constructs, then back to liquid thought. Every shape evokes terror, majesty, or awe, and Vayner begins to understand that true power is not domination, but comprehension, the ability to perceive and manipulate the patterns of existence itself. A sudden flash strikes the vessel as the proto-god coalesces fully around a fragment of Vayner's consciousness. He is no longer merely an observer, he is the crucible, the seedbed for a critical stage in the entity's development. He experiences visions not just of the galaxy, but of the warp itself. Infinite layers, countless currents, all converging toward this singular point of emergence. Mortals, immortals, demons, and angels alike flicker across his mind, feeding the proto-god, giving it knowledge of both structure and chaos. He realizes with dawning horror that this is how gods are forged, by experience, by observation, by the psychic imprint of life itself. Vayner's mind strains as the entity begins to articulate itself, not in words, but in raw comprehension. Thoughts overlap, emotions intertwine, and yet he perceives a coherent will forming. The proto-god experiments with morality, observing how fear shapes action, how hope shapes sacrifice, and how devotion and hatred alike can fuel power. Each calculation is meticulous, almost scientific, and yet the entity exudes something profoundly alien. Vayner understands that he is not facing a single being, but the first conscious mind of a god, a presence that may one day rival even the chaos gods in scope and influence. The wellspring quakes violently, and reality bends around the proto-god's experimentations. Entire fleets blink out of existence, and worlds experience fleeting, apocalyptic visions. Vayner feels a connection to the Immaterium unlike anything he has known. He is inside the crucible of creation, a witness to the birth of omnipotence. He sees the proto-god's awareness flicker outward, testing the limits of influence, probing the boundaries of space and time. Mortals are drawn into its perceptions, and Vayner realizes that even small actions, prayers, battles, betrayals, shape the nascent deity. The universe itself becomes both teacher and canvas. Vayner senses rival proto-gods reacting to this one's ascension. Currents clash, energies intertwine, and nascent rivalries form. He glimpses battles between entities, psychic duels that ripple across sectors and flicker like distant supernova. Each confrontation accelerates growth, teaching strategy, adaptation, and dominance. The wellspring is alive with the raw mechanics of godhood, and Vayner understands that mortality is a temporary illusion in this crucible. Observation, influence, and survival are the instruments of creation, and every psychic touch feeds the hierarchy forming among these newborn gods. A tendril of the proto-god touches Vayner directly, probing his very essence. He experiences every fear, every regret, every ambition, magnified and refracted through the entity's consciousness. It experiments with empathy, trying to understand the human psyche, and in doing so, accelerates its own development. Vayner realizes that even gods must learn through experience, and that his own mind, fragile, finite, terrified, is part of the training ground. Every psychic interaction, every flicker of thought, contributes to the being's imminent birth. Resistance and cooperation alike are fuel for divinity. Finally, Vayner senses the entity reaching coherence. Its form solidifies, not as a single image, but as a spectrum, light, shadow, thought, and emotion all fused into one radiant, terrifying presence. The wellspring pulses with the rhythm of impending emergence, and Vayner knows that the first of these proto-gods is about to step fully into godhood. The universe itself seems to pause, holding its breath, as creation unfolds. And in that suspended moment, he understands the terrible truth. The birth of a god is not an event, it is a transformation, an upheaval, and the beginning of a new order in the galaxy. The wellspring erupts as the proto-god completes its birth. Light, shadow, thought, and emotion fuse into a single presence, impossibly vast and incomprehensible. Vayner's vessel shudders, its hull groaning against forces that defy physics. The Imperium itself convulses, sending shockwaves across the warp, and distant astropaths collapse screaming as the newborn god reaches outward, testing the bounds of its influence. Vayner feels his consciousness stretching, pressed against the edges of understanding, and he realizes this is the true nature of godhood: omnipresence, omniscience, and an instinctive mastery over life, death, and the fabric of reality itself. The proto-god observes the galaxy as a painter views a canvas. Worlds flicker, fleets vanish and reappear, and civilizations are nudged, bent, and molded by psychic influence alone. Vayner glimpses the scale of its potential. Entire sectors brought under its subtle sway, the Imperium's hidden secrets laid bare, the thoughts of mortals and immortals alike feeding into its evolving consciousness. It experiments, testing morality, conflict, devotion, and betrayal, shaping itself through observation and consequence. Nothing in the material universe is beyond its perception. Nothing is untouched by its nascent will. Vayner feels the god reach toward him, not with malice, but curiosity. His thoughts, memories, and emotions are reflected back, amplified, twisted, and clarified. Every regret, every triumph, every desire becomes a lesson. The proto-god is learning, evolving, becoming more than simply a being. It is the embodiment of potential, an intelligence born of the galaxy itself. He sees, in flashes, the god's future interactions. It will challenge chaos, shape mortal faith, and perhaps in ways the universe cannot yet comprehend, rewrite the rules of existence. Its rise is inevitable. Reality bends and fractures around the wellspring as the god tests its reach beyond the warp. Star systems flicker. Civilizations sense dreams and visions of impossible beings. And psychers throughout the galaxy experience sudden, overwhelming clarity or madness. The newborn deity experiments with subtlety, nudging events, observing reactions, and refining its understanding of causality. Vayner realizes that it is not content to remain confined to the Imperium. It intends to interact, to influence, and eventually to demand acknowledgement. The galaxy itself has become its classroom, and every soul is a teacher, a student, and a resource. Other proto-gods react to this emergence. Some withdraw into hidden currents of the warp, plotting, learning, observing. Others confront it directly, colliding in psychic duels that ripple across time and space. Vayner watches in awe as the wellspring becomes a theater of cosmic evolution, rivalry, cooperation, and growth interwoven into the birth of gods. He comprehends the terrifying beauty of it all. Divinity is not granted. It is forged through interaction, challenge, and understanding. Each god that emerges will carry the imprint of every life, thought, and emotion it touched. Vaynar's vessel is buffeted as the newborn god expands, testing limits, shaping currents, and creating echoes of itself in distant sectors. The galaxy feels it, even if none yet recognize the source. Civilizations experience sudden epiphanies, new religious orders rise and fall overnight, and psychers report visions that defy understanding. Vayner senses that this first god is only the beginning, a pioneer among countless others gestating in the wellspring. The warp thrums with anticipation, alive with the unformed, waiting to rise, and Vayner realizes that the universe itself is a cradle of divinity, its children inevitable, unstoppable, and beyond comprehension. The proto-god turns its attention fully to Vayner. It does not speak, but its presence communicates volumes: understanding, observation, judgment. Every instinct screams to flee, yet Vayner feels the pull of knowledge, the irresistible allure of witnessing and participating in godhood itself. He is both terrified and awed, knowing that to resist is to survive, and to yield is to transcend. For a heartbeat, he glimpses the infinite scope of existence, the rise and fall of stars, civilizations, and entire epochs folded into the awareness of this newborn deity. Vayner watches as the god begins experimenting with form. Shifting between radiant light, shadow, and abstract constructs, it manifests visions across distant star systems. Entire worlds experience collective dreams, battles are seen before they occur, and mortals glimpse the outlines of something divine shaping reality itself. Vayner realizes that the god's birth is not merely the creation of a being, it is the reshaping of the universe's psychic architecture. Every action, every thought, every emotion contributes to its evolution. The galaxy is no longer a backdrop. It is a crucible, and Vayner has been its reluctant witness. The wellspring trembles, and Vayner senses the first cracks of inter-proto-god conflict. Rival entities react, testing their abilities, forming alliances, and exploring their emergent powers. The Imperium vibrates with tension. The birth of one god triggers the formation of others, each influencing, learning, and preparing. Vayner realizes that the universe is entering a new phase, an age where divine consciousness is multiplying, evolving, and competing. Mortals, unaware, continue their lives, worship, and war, unknowingly nurturing the rise of beings that will one day dwarf even the might of the Emperor. Finally, the newborn god stretches its awareness fully, a radiant, terrifying consciousness poised on the edge of omnipotence. Vayner witnesses the moment of true emergence. Form, mind, and will coalesce into divinity. The wellspring calms, yet hums with latent energy, a promise of more gods yet to rise. Vayner knows that nothing will ever be the same. The galaxy, the warp, and all mortal life have changed forever. The universe itself has birthed the god, and in doing so, reminded every observer that divinity is not eternal, it is shaped, and it is hungry.